to my new video. It's basically just like an overview of what I'm going to do with this channel, where I'm taking it, the things I'm going to do. I've been sitting back trying to decide exactly which way I'm going with this channel. I could spend the whole time talking about VeVe and just the comic books on VeVe. I could spend the whole time talking about comic books that could be coming to VeVe. So I sat back, what were my goals when I started this channel? What did I set out to achieve when I started this? Basically, I want to get you guys in VeVe interested in comics. I want to bring people into comics. I want to get people into comics. And I want to get people that are into comics over to VeVe. Even if I get one person on VeVe that gets interested enough to start picking up some comics and reading some comics, that's what I'm trying to do, honestly. That, and I want to bring awareness of VeVe to the broader comic book community. That, and I just want to talk about comics and share my love of comics. Those were my main goals. So I kind of broke up what I'm going to be doing in different little segments, little different types of videos. I'm going to do like a VeVe focused video where I talk about the comics. The new comics coming, I'll probably do it. It'll probably be my Wednesday video. That'll be my VeVe video where I'll talk about the comic that came out on Tuesday, the comic that's coming Thursday. If there's anything big that's coming that you need to have on your radar, like you need to get this one. If it's going to be the Tuesday comic, I'll make a video earlier in the week letting you guys know you need to get this comic. Then I'm going to do a video that's just going to be like a general conversation about the state of the comic book industry. Be a rant at sometimes. Sometimes it'll be more positive, more upbeat. Sometimes it'll be more negative, more downbeat. First one I'm working on actually that is probably going to be my video for tomorrow. It's called Why Superman Was Better Off Dead. That's going to be my first comic book industry rant. I want to get a conversation going with some of the comic book community about some of this stuff and people outside of the comic book community. I want to hear opinions. Was Superman better off just staying dead back in 1991? Would he be in a better state now than he is? That's the argument I'm going to make tomorrow. Then I've been reading a lot of comics. I've got Marvel Unlimited. I've got Comixology. I've been reading a lot of comics. And once a week, I'm going to do a comic book review. This is for people that haven't read these comics that might be interested in them. And I'm going to review a different comic series, I'll probably review like trade paperback collections, so it'd be easy for somebody to jump in and read it. First one I'm working on, I believe, is going to be Neil Gaiman's Sandman, the first volume of Sandman. This is a way to bring awareness of different types of comics to the mainstream audience, people that may not know about them. And you could hear me talking about this comic and you could be like, oh, wow, that. And Sandman, if you're interested in comics, you should probably look into Sandman. I would say that's the gold standard for comic books, is Sandman. Then the day after that, I'm going to do a deep dive into one of the comic books on VeVe. I'm going to pick a comic book on VeVe. So if there's any of you guys who really want to know like the history of the comic book, the history of the creators, what went into that comic book, the characters that were introduced, historical, I'm going to like sales records. I'm going to go nitty gritty, a deep dive into a comic book from VeVe once a week. First one I'm doing is Fantastic Four #5. I had that as the #1 comic I think you should own, so I'm going to do that as the first deep dive. Just to show you why I picked that one. You know what I mean? So if there's any comics you guys really want to know about, like know the history of or know about the characters, leave that down there, because that's something I'm going to do once a week, and that'll help me know which ones to pick first. And then I'm going to do like a little documentary type video that's a history of comics. And I'm going to delve into different subjects in comic book history every week. I have all this useless knowledge of comic book history floating around. I can tell you about Siegel and Schuster, how they created Superman, how they had Superman basically stolen from them and they were fired from Superman and lived in poverty for most of their lives. Bob Kane, the person that's credited as creating Batman, how he basically stole the character of Batman and took all the credit, where many other people were involved in the creation and didn't get the credit until the last 10 years or so, really. The United States government trying to shut down the comic book industry because it was a threat to the very moral fabric of American society. I'll go into some stuff like that. Stuff I've studied, it's stuff I know about. I want the knowledge out there. I don't want it to just die and go away. I don't want all this stuff to be forgotten. It needs to be put out there for people to see. I'm also thinking about once a week doing like an AMA type video where you guys are putting questions in the comments. I'm going to go through, pull some of these questions out and just answer them that way. I'm just going to do it as a video. So if you're leaving questions, I'm seeing them. I'm like making up a list for my first video. And then I'm going to throw like just little top 10s, things like that I've been doing. I'm going to throw some of those in also. So that's kind of where I'm taking the channel. It's going to be half VeVe, half comic book general conversation. It's going to be a little bit of everything. I'm going to kind of separate the page so you'll be able to tell where stuff is easier. You want to see comic book reviews, there'll be a section of my YouTube channel for that. There'll be a section for the VeVe conversation. There'll be a section for like comic book history things I'm going to do. Just general rants. I'll have everything organized so you can find what you're looking for. And speaking of comics and the comics on VeVe right now, I mean, I'd be grabbing them. I'm grabbing them. First Falcon, that's a big one. That's a good one to have. That Captain America, I don't have, I'm recording with my phone, so I don't have my collection right in front of me. I think it's 117, Captain America 117, First Falcon, that's a good one. So some of these that have been dropping, I'd be picking them up. They're all good first appearances to have. Most of these are characters that are going to have a big role in the MCU, have a big role, and are going forward also. So everything that's been coming out the last couple weeks, it's good. Nothing's going to change like the top 10 most essential comics, anything like that I've put out yet. But the stuff that's out there right now, I'm grabbing a copy of everything. But basically, I'm holding a common of everything. And I've got a few rares and maybe an ultra rare or two left. I don't know, because I'll buy rares and ultra rares quite a bit when there's like a market dip, and then I'll turn around and flip them. So I don't know exactly everything I have. There's going to be a video going through, but I think I only have rares, maybe a couple uncommons, and mostly a common of it. I do have a common of every issue that's been out though. Basically, my strategy right now is I'm just kind of waiting for the stuff I personally collect. And then I'm going to start selling some of these comics, and I'm going to put that into the stuff I collect. Some Wolverine stuff, some Venom stuff, Gambit. Those are some of the characters I collect. When that stuff comes out, I'll be selling some of the stuff I have and putting it into that stuff. I have gems on the side already. I've got about a third in gems, and then the rest of it I've got in the comics. And the rares I still have left are just the ones I didn't sell during the last round of selling rares. They're the ones I'm still holding. I don't think anything in my collection right now, besides the Death statue, will be anything I'm going to hold forever. That'll be like part of my collection. That Death statue, I'm not selling that. That's mine. Like I said, give me some Venom, give me some Gambit, give me some Wolverine stuff. I'll be buying it. But that Death, she comes from Sandman, which I was talking about just a little bit ago, and great character, great 90s character. It's probably Death, Deadpool, Harley Quinn. That's probably the 3 top comic book characters that came out of the 1990s. So that's what I'm doing with VeVe, is just kind of, right now I'm keeping my money in stuff that I think is going to increase in value over time. And when the stuff I collect shows up, I'm going to sell. I would have killed for some of the Spider-Man stuff like 25 years ago. I had a huge Spider-Man collection. And my first apartment I ever lived in, our neighbor's pipes burst and flooded out our apartment, destroyed my Spider-Man collection. I've never collected Spider-Man since then. You know what I mean? After that, it's like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want to have to go find all of these. I had some good comics. I had Death of Gwen Stacy. I had the Death of the Green Goblin. I had the whole Hobgoblin story arc from his first appearance up. I had Carnage. I had all the Carnage stuff. I had most of the Venom. I didn't have Venom's first appearance. I didn't have Amazing Spider-Man 300. I had the first Punisher. I had some good comics. I had the Clone Saga, both. The original Clone Saga and the 90s Clone Saga. All that stuff got destroyed. I had Amazing Spider-Man 252. But yeah, when you lose all that, it just kind of takes your, I don't know. I was able to save my X-Men collection. That wasn't affected by the flood. It was stored in a different part of the room, and it was further up to where it didn't get flooded. So I just put all my effort into my X-Men and my independent comics after that, and let Spider-Man just go. So I would have killed for some of the Spider-Man stuff back then, but it doesn't hold the personal value for me anymore. I'm holding it because I believe in it and I believe it's going to go up. That's why I have my money in it right now. But when Hulk 181, first Wolverine comes, if that's super limited, like Amazing Spider-Man 252, for example, I'll sell Amazing Spider-Man 252 in a heartbeat to get that Wolverine. With the Wolverine and Venom stuff, when those comics show up, I'll be going for the secret rares. I won't be going for. I'll probably stack a few of the commons, but I'll have one of each rarity. But I'll definitely have the secret rares of those. At one point, I had 8 secret rares on here, and that's all I was holding. I had all the rest of my stuff in gems, and then I had 8 secret rares that I was holding. And I ended up selling those, and that's when I went in and bought all the commons. Most of them I got on drop, and I end up selling them, and then end up buying them back at like 30, 40 bucks a piece. But by that time, I've got a Steamboat Willie on drop. I got the ultra rare Steamboat on drop. I held that for a little while, then flipped it for a nice little profit. And I think I got that like right after I sold the secret rares. If I would have got that before I sold the secret rares, I would have probably held the secret rares and then still did the same thing and bought all the commons, you know? But yeah, like I said, I believe in all these comics right now. That's why I'm holding them all. So yeah, a lot of comic book content coming though. My rant tomorrow and the little general comic book rants that I'm going to do like that, it's kind of a way to let you guys in on the general sentiment of the comic book community. I have these feelings, and I'm watching a lot of videos from other people that have the same feelings I do. So it's not going to be just some random rant. This is the way the long-term comic book fans are feeling. But basically, yeah, these rants and the reviews and everything, it's to help broaden your knowledge of comic books. The whole comic book scene, the whole comic book industry. It's not just Marvel. It's not just DC. And if you look at it in today's age, DC is not even the #2 comic book publisher anymore. If you take it by strictly sales numbers, which is what you should take it by, Image Comics is behind Marvel, and Image Comics is actually about to surpass Marvel and become the #1 publisher of comic books in the United States. Image. Not DC, not Marvel. Image. A lot of Netflix series, a lot of Amazon series, and a lot of the series that you guys watch, a lot of the streaming series are based on comic books. And that would be some knowledge to know, you know what I mean? This is a big comic book, and it's coming to VeVe, and I watched the show on Amazon. The Boys. I didn't plan that either. The Boys. Comic book series on Amazon, but it was a well-known comic book series beforehand. There's something for everybody. It's not just superheroes. It's not just horror. It's everything. There's romance comics. I've read over the past week, I've read about 20 different trade paperback collections on Comixology. It'll be like it's like 6, 7 issues of a comic collected together. I've read like 20 of those of different series this week, and they're all different. They all bring something different to the table. And that's what I like about comic books. It's reading, but you have the visuals to go along with it. So it's almost like a cross between movies or television and reading a book, honestly. It's like as close as you can get between the two. You're reading, you're seeing the internal dialogues of the characters. You're seeing what they're thinking, what they're feeling, but you're seeing the action actually happen in front of you also. And I believe there's a comic book series. There's thousands of comic books released every week. Thousands, tens of thousands of comic books being published every week. There's something out there for everybody. The biggest problem is the access. Most people don't have access to find comics because you can only really buy them at a comic shop anymore. Most people don't have the ease of access to getting comics, and that's some stuff I'm going to talk about too.